Today we are especially proud to present to you two living legends, a man who has 4 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and a woman who is the winner of the Nijinsky Award for Excellence in Dance, Mr. Tony Martin and Miss Cyd Charisse. Thank you so much for being here today and for becoming part of our wonderful legacy program, sharing your lives and times in the entertainment industry. Now, you've been able to sustain an artistic and loving relationship for many years together. How long have you been married?
56 years.
56 years.
On May 15th, right?
May 15th was 56.
And you have 2 children in the family and grandchildren.
Yes.
What choices and sacrifices did you make along the way to sustain such a vibrant partnership all these years?
Just admiration as artists that we have for each other. I believe that's it.
Yes,
I think Cyd is the greatest dancer I ever saw on the screen. If I didn't know her, I'd say that, if I met her.
No, I think because we're in the same business, that I can understand his problems and he can understand mine.
Right.
You were singing with the Clarion 4 and were discovered and urged to move to Hollywood. Were you dreaming of becoming a movie star or a recording star?
No, I really wanted to be a member of the Paul Whiteman Orchestra. I thought that was or some great orchestra to play as a musician. I didn't think of singing to be a star. I wanted to be capable of doing both, singing and playing music and everything.
And you already, I think, answered this one. Who were some of your musical idols or favorite movie stars at that time? And you said Russ Columbo
and Bing Crosby. They're all my favorites. Every star to me was a star. I used to go to the theaters in Oakland and see every picture that ever played. And it was wonderful. My life was filled with it. I once had a most important thing. Tom Mix had a horse named Tony. And they brought him to the RKO Theater in Oakland. And I got a job taking care of the horse. That was the biggest beginning for my life. Show pictures.
You didn't name yourself after the horse, did you?
No, I'll tell you about that, though. That came later.
Okay.
That came when I got to RKO on a contract. And the producer, somebody said, there has to be a fellow in the picture that doesn't last long in the picture, that passes away or something, and it'd be a good part for him to play. So all of a sudden he asked me, and my agent asked me to be in it, if they put me in it. And he put me in it, but he said, I can't use you. You'll have to change your name. I said, why? He said, well, we can't have three Morrises in the picture. We got Wayne Morris and Chester Morris. If we have we might as well get the Ritz brothers or the Marx brothers in the picture. So they gave me a chance to change my name. And I went downtown, and there was a magazine in those days. Well, the man in the magazine was from a well-to-do family from Baltimore, and he loved to gamble in New Orleans, and his name was Anthony, like one of the Anthony families. So I took that. And then I went to the Coconut Grove, the Ambassador Hotel downtown, and Freddie Martin's orchestra was playing. And I was dancing with a lady, and she says, there, that's the fella. Look at that. He plays saxophone just like you, and he's singing a song tonight. I said, yeah, that's me. So he says, okay, you're Tony Martin. And I had my name legally changed, and that's how that happened.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, Al Morris never came back.
When you arrived in Hollywood, it was a very glamorous, exciting place. What were your impressions when you first arrived here?
Well, I never stopped to think of Hollywood because I think I was quite young at that time. And my parents, we were in California on vacation, so we were there. And while we were there, I was studying dancing, you know. So I just never had an impression of stars and play. I just came to California on vacation with my parents, and I was taking a few dancing lessons. That's how it struck me completely.
So you weren't starstruck?
No, I never was, really, at that time.
How did you both manage your early careers? Did you have agents, managers, or did your parents do it?
We had the same agent.
Same agent.
We had the same agent, and he introduced us.
That's how we really met. It was a world premiere of a picture. You remember that, Cyd?
Yes, it was a...
And we were invited, and I took you to the showing of the picture. I forget the name of the picture, but we saw it. And then after that, we went to Macombo. We had something to eat, and I said good night. It was very nice being together. Hope to see you again real soon, and that's how that happened.
Was it love at first sight?
No, he was just a very charming man. And
oh, it wasn't?
Yes, you were. Yes, you were. You were a very nice man.
No, we were mature people. We had a flick in the eyes. You know.
How long after you met were you married?
Oh, goodness, I never thought about that, really. How long ago?
Oh, I guess we were married in 48. I guess it was in we saw the picture in 47. About 8, 9 months.
Pretty fast.
Yes.
Tony, how did you land your first break in the movies?
How did I what do?
How did you land your first break in the movies, and what was it?
Well, the first break I had was in a Fred Astaire picture with Ginger Rogers. I thought I was going to get a big part, but it really wasn't. All I was doing standing in for a battleship. I didn't have much to do with it, but it was a thrill to be in a movie with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. I remember I went up during one of the scenes, and he says, "Hey, you did that very good." I said, "Thank you, Mr. Astaire." I said, "May I have your autograph?" And the cameras were rolling. He says, cut. He gave me an autograph. I kept that picture all through my career.
Wow. You've both worked with some of the true greats in the industry, people who we all hear about all the time and we see on screen. Can you tell me, or what were your remembrances of working with some of them? Let's start with Fred Astaire.
Well, he was wonderful. I was fortunate enough to be able to work with him. And he was absolutely the most charming gentleman. He was a gentleman. He wanted everything to be right, everything to be good. He worked hard. He appreciated you when you worked hard. He was just a wonderful man to be around. He was absolutely charming, just charming, and a great dancer.
Oh, yes. And he said a lot of very nice things about you. In his writings, I mean, he mentions you with great admiration and love and respect, and tremendous admiration for your ability as a dancer. What about Judy Garland?
Judy Garland was wonderful. Did Ziegfeld Girl with her. She was a fun girl, rather moody sometimes, as later people found out. She wanted to be greater than she was, but God had given her such a talent and such a camera, beautiful appearance and feeling. She expressed so well in every shot she made, and she was great.
Lucille Ball?
Lucille Ball, she was a showgirl in one of the pictures I was in. That's the Fred Astaire picture. Yeah.
Barbara Stanwyck?
Barbara Stanwyck, we did that one. I did a picture with her and Barbara Stanwyck and Joel McRae, and I sang a song to her. She was wonderful. She was a fine actress, and I was just starting. My acting was not the best. I was new to it all. I had never studied that. So I got a call one morning from the secretary. She says, "This is Barbara Stanwyck's secretary." I said, yes. I said, "What is it?" It's 6:30 in the morning. She says, "Miss Stanwyck is in the first shot with you today, and she wants to rehearse with you the scene." I said, "Fine, and be on the set at 8. So we're on the set at 8. On the lot at Fox. And yes, at Fox, that's right. And so we got in there, She says, I'm telling you why I'm doing this. She says, I know I'm going to be good in this picture, but I'll make sure you are. She says, you know, this is a big scene, and I want you to play it right. And I said, oh, well, I'll do the best I can. She was an inspiration.
But not intimidating?
Not at all,
Great.
Not at all. And she was fun. She says, now, go and have yourself some breakfast, and I'll go have my makeup done. We'll meet on the set. We had a scene on a big bale of hay, and it came off fine. I think we did it in 2 takes. And then I sang a song with her in a nightclub scene. And it was quite a nice thing. She winds up in the picture marrying Joel McRae, who was quite some fella. Real nice man. Kind.
What about Eddie Cantor?
Eddie Cantor, he was fun. I always remember Eddie Cantor. He said to me, I said to Mr. Cantor, I said, I grew up listening to your Sunday night shows on radio. I said, my folks and I would all listen. And to be here in a movie with you is unbelievable. He says, thank you. He says, let me ask you something. How do you do it? You're still around all these years, and you've conquered the stage and everything else. He says, Tony, if you want to stay in this business, all you got to do is be able to keep walking. Just keep walking. And I've been thinking of him ever since, keep walking.
And I understand you walk every day.
Well, most of the time, but this last year I haven't walked every day. I go about once or twice a week. Yeah.
Now, both of you were in the Ziegfeld Follies, right?
And what?
You were both in the Ziegfeld Follies?
No,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
You were not?
No, I was in Ziegfeld Girl.
Ziegfeld Girl.
That's
I
right.
see.
I was in Ziegfeld Follies.
Ziegfeld Follies. And you performed with every great artist of the time. Are there any particular memories you have of that?
Well, it was the first thing I'd done at MGM, was come down in my little point shoes and do dancing point. And there was a scene where they had to have this big thing that went up to the sky, and all the girls were sitting on it, and it was beautiful. And when we started to dance, a machine went out of order, and the whole thing was just being overwhelmed with water and everything else of everybody. And of course, it was my first thing I'd ever done in movies, and I thought, wait a minute, what am I got myself into? That was my experience.
And you did Ziegfeld Girl.
Ziegfeld Girl was the first one that I ever did. First time I ever wore a white tie and tails. Heretofore I'd worn tuxedos, sport clothes, etc. But to wear white tie and tails. Remember, I had Clark Gable's shirt. Everybody on the lot would lend me a piece of something to wear. Maurice Chevalier's tuxedo tails. It was a mess. But I do remember, it was just wonderful singing to 3 lovely ladies like that. I couldn't believe it. I pre-recorded a song, You Stepped Out of a Dream, a wonderful song. And then I had to sing that in a big scene with Judy Garland, Lana Turner, and Hedy Lamarr. And if you don't think that was something, it's something that the rest of my life since 1940, I've never forgotten. When I sing that song in everything I do, every time I have a show, and I think of those 3 ladies. They're no longer with us, but they'll always be with me. They were something to remember.
Cyd, you started as a professional dancer. Tony, you as a singer. And then both of you became movie stars. Did either of you study acting?
I went to Amanda to study, but I had parts to play, so that I would familiarize myself and not be concerned how I look when I said the things. Because that's what actors are, people who don't act. Actors are people that just become who they're supposed to be. And it's quite a transition from being yourself to all of a sudden being that other person in the picture. And that was why I studied. I tried my best. Some pictures I did all right. I did a picture called Casbah, and that's when I thought I did my best performances. I played Pepe Lamoco. That was fun, great fun.
I remember the film.
I do. Great song, too. For every man there's a woman. For every life there's a plan. And wise men know it was ever so since the world began. Woman was made for man.
That's why every woman in America was in love with him. Cyd, did MGM have plans to slowly build you into a solo artist? And at the time, did you have aspirations to become an actress as well as a dancer?
Well, yes, they did. They definitely wanted everybody to go, and I went to their coach all the time, and I would get a little part to play, as I said before, here, and a little part there. I look back at them and think, oh my goodness. But yes, it was like going to school at that studio. It was very good. It was just very, very good for me, coming out of being a dancer.
Gave you a lot of confidence, I'm sure.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What a training ground.
Yes, and you were treated so well, so nicely, approached nicely.
Now, that's why I say a lot of people bemoan the loss of that training ground and the loss of that.
Well, it's true. That, people would they took them and just turned them into, with the talent, they turned them into something great. And it was a wonderful thing for actors to have that doesn't exist anymore, which is a shame.
And that's why we have, one film or one series stars. They appear in one film and they disappear, or they appear in one television program and they disappear.
That is absolutely correct.
And that's a shame. Tony, what was it like working with the Marx Brothers?
Oh, that was something. It was great. I enjoyed them so much. They were fun on the set. They were just great. Harper would be studying Russian or Japanese. He was well-schooled because he never said anything in the pictures, so he found out he was studying that. And then there was Chico and Zeppo. Zeppo wasn't in it. I took his part in that picture. And Groucho. Great fun, Groucho, all of them. There was a period when they wanted to go to New York, and they were going to shoot all the scenes, the songs that I was to sing in the picture for about a week. And they all took off. They took off for New York because their best friend at the time, Eddie Robinson.
Oh, Edward G.
Eddie
Robinson
was doing a play in New York, and they went to see him because Groucho and Eddie were inseparable friends. And he went back, and he saw the show. And he came back, and I said, Groucho, how was the show? We started to continue shooting. See? He said, oh, it was all right. He says, I said, how was Eddie? He says, well, he was all right. He was just all right? How do you say that to him? He said, well, I've always told the truth about what I saw in other people. So he says to me, Groucho, what'd you think of my performance? He says, Eddie, you'll never be better than you were tonight. And he said that. I said, what did he say then? He said, well, he studied it for a minute, then I ran out of the room. Well, we lap dissolve, as they say, we move on. We get to a point where the picture previews in Santa Monica. It's supposed to be at UCLA where young people would see it and laugh. But on account of tax-wise and the theaters were taken, they ran it in a little theater in Santa Monica where some elderly people came that didn't particularly understand the Marx Brothers. But I had a song in that picture called Tenement Symphony. And they apparently liked it very much because all the cards that come in the lobby of the theater, they came in, my agent said, look at this, look at this. And they all mentioned Tony Martin's singing Tenement Symphony is the thing of the picture. And so, in the meantime, Groucho's out there, and they're all standing in the lobby after the preview. So he says to me, well, Tony, what'd you think of it? I said, Groucho, you'll never be better than you were tonight. He wanted to hit me. I tell you something, for a minute he stood there, unfolding his hands, and then he said, you remember what I told you, don't you? I said, yes. We laughed it off. That's what I remember them.
And you got better reviews than he did.
No, not really. But at that preview things, I was new to them, to all the people that saw the picture.
Cyd, Singing in the Rain, dancing with another great. Not only did he dance, he choreographed. Can you share some reminiscences of the rehearsal period and working with Jean?
I really wasn't supposed to be in that picture at all. And one day I was walking down the lot, and Arthur Freed stopped me, and he said, "Cyd, I want to talk to you." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "What is it?" He said, "How would you like to be in Singing in the Rain?" I said, "Well, Mr., the picture's practically over. They're finished." He says, "The picture's well along." He says, "But I want one big number. And would you like to do it? Would you like to dance with Gene Kelly?" Well, I almost fainted right there. So I said, "Oh, of course, I'd love that." So I went right to work with his assistant, learning the number, which had already really been laid out. So when we did do Singing in the Rain, it was absolutely a wonderful film for me to do, because it really made the audience aware of me from that one film, because it was a great, great number. And of course, Gene with his talent, and Arthur Freed is a great producer. It was fabulous to be there.
How was Gene to work with? Did he allow you any input into the choreography, or he had it all in his mind?
No, Gene was pretty well set the way he wanted it when you did something, but he was perfectionist. They all are. Fred Astaire's a perfectionist. She was too. It had to be done 100 times until it was right, and they were both very much like that. Very talented, both of them.
I'd like to interpose here.
What?
I always knew when she was working. I'd come up from the road. We had a home where we'd have dinner. And I'd see it. And how is it going? She'd say, "Right." In those days, you saw the dailies the next day. Not like today, they go over and look through a little thing and say, "That's it." But the next day they go. Fred Astaire would never go to those. He'd always call her and ask if they'd sit and talk for an hour on the phone. Once he'd go just for makeup tests, but never for anything else.
He didn't want to see it, but he wanted me to tell him how it was.
And I always remember that people ask to compare Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly. She having worked with both of them. Well, I can tell you the difference. But as I saw it, when she danced with Gene Kelly, she was black and bruised most of the time because she was a strenuous dancer. But with Fred Astaire, she's nothing. She picked him up off the floor, it seemed. He floated through the air. That was the difference of the two.
Very different styles, but both
Although
so
they did
marvelous.
A picture together and it came off beautifully.
Yes, yes. I mean, you danced really with all the great dancers.
Well, thanks to that training I got with the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo, I was strong enough to do it.
But I think probably that's, other than the fact that you're gorgeous and talented, I think that probably that's why they wanted you. Because they knew that whatever they demanded, you were able to produce.
Yes, thank goodness.
So, I mean, that's tremendous.
But she went on to do Silk Stockings with Fred. And then she also did that wonderful picture, Brigadoon, with Gene Kelly.
What happened to the green dress you wore in Singing in the Rain?
Well, Debbie Reynolds has it, I think, in her collection. She has a collection of costumes and everything that she shows now and then. And I think Debbie has it in her collection someplace.
Tony, you spent 4 years in the military. How about sharing some of your experiences during the service and discuss how you proudly wear that Bronze Star citation?
Oh, they had one left. No, we don't discuss that. I was stationed with the Air Force, China, Burma, India. We flew the hump many times, forced landings, etc. And through some bombings and things.
So you must have special feelings about the young men and women in Iraq right now.
Oh, yes. Of course we do. Of course, it's so many years ago, I was overseas 19 months, and it just seems like it would never end. In fact, it wasn't going to end until we found out on a plane trip that they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima.
Cyd, you performed in The Bandwagon, directed by Vincent Minnelli, and danced with Fred Astaire. What was the collaboration like and the choreography with Michael Kidd?
Well, Michael Kidd was the first choreographer who ever really worked with Fred Astaire. He had Hermes Pan. He always worked only with Hermes Pan. It was just, they just had no reason to allow anybody else to be there. But when it came to our friend here, he liked him very much. And so, and he took to him, and he would go he would watch Fred for a while, and then he would go quietly in the room and lay out something that he thought Fred would like to see, and so they got along absolutely beautifully in that film, and it turned out to be a wonderful musical.
There are very long dance sequences in that film with very few cuts, and that's so different from the way today's dance sequences are filmed. Was it hard on you as a dancer?
No, not really. The way they shot them, they took them by the by scene. It was all broken up when you shot it. It was not that much more difficult.
I have two favorites from that film: Dancing in the Dark,
Dancing in the Dark,
Girl Hunt.
That's my favorite too. My favorite number is Dancing in the Dark.
It was wonderful. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about how that came to be?
Well, it was Vincent Minnelli, of course, and it was Fred Astaire. They both had a sense of humor that was wonderful. Fred had a funny little sense, and so did Vincent, and they loved beautiful numbers and beautiful musical, especially musical.
I believe it was the atmosphere. I've seen that picture over and over. I think that's one of the finest numbers of two people.
Yes, it is.
Not because Cyd's sitting here, but two people's numbers that really came through as a big, tremendous love song and a dancing, and when they stepped into the carriage at the end, and when Fred moved right in at the end of that song, and the song, of course, was beautiful, Dancing in the Dark. It just couldn't miss with those two people.
Yeah, the whole artistic conception of it is
They applauded
beautiful.
and cheered that number.
And Vincent Minnelli, he wanted everything perfect. He came in, he wanted a set, had to be perfect before he would even start to shoot. He wanted everything right. And he was very aware of musicals and great music. Vincent was a wonderful director.
Now, speaking of music, aside from the movies, you have had, Tony, an amazing recording career.
Been very fortunate. When you get #1 songs and the hit on the parades, there's always a reason why you happen to get it. One of them was Begin to Begin.
How did you get that one?
Well, that came by at a time when they called me at the record company, said they want you to cover. Artie Shaw had a recording out at the time of Begin to Begin. It was selling in the millions. It was an instrumental. So they said, we want you to do it with the lyric. So I said, okay, you sure I'm not copying? No. And I did it. And I made the chart #1. Right after Benny Goodman's went off of #1, mine went up to #1. Then I had the song from Paris that I sang, La Vie en Rose, which I sang with a little French in it, and it was quite a hit. And then I had some others, You Stepped Out of a Dream, There's No Tomorrow. Well, that was something that Perry Como turned down, may his soul rest. He didn't think he should do it at the time because he said, who's going to like O Sole Mio? He says, people aren't going to buy my record, O Sole Mio. My parents sang it to me ever since I was a baby, and everybody in my town sang O Sole Mio. He forgot to mention that they changed to There's No Tomorrow. The lyric was done, and I, having been a musician, they handed me, I had 15 minutes left in a set in the same recording studio that Perry was in, and he'd left. Would I try doing it? I said, go ahead, I've got a few little, I'll do it. I sight read the music, and I had the lyric. So I did There's No Tomorrow. And little did we know that it became #1 and stayed up there for about 7 or 8 weeks. Amazing.
You have a lot of gold records.
Yes, I had 4 or 5. I'll tell you something funny about it. Elvis Presley, I met him one day, and I said, "How do you do, Mr. Presley?" "No, just call me Elvis." He said, "Mr. Martin," I said, "You better call me Tony." He says, I've heard a lot about you, and I'm very pleased to meet you. He says, I want to tell you something. He says, thanks to you, I did a song. He says, "Really? What is that?" I said, "I'll tell you, thanks to you, Elvis. You restored my song. I sang There's No Tomorrow, and you made a recording called It's Now or Never, which is the same song." He did the same song with a different lyric about 6 or 7 years later, and he was on the top of the chart with that. So we discussed that. I said, "Tell me when you're going to get some more songs you're going to change the lyrics to."
Cyd, you went back to dancing with Gene Kelly and Brigadoon with a very challenging acting role in that as well. Then It's Always Fair Weather. Now, known to possess the most beautiful legs in Hollywood, how did you deal with all this fame of becoming the glamorous movie star?
Well, I never really thought of it that way. I just never thought that direction. Honestly, I didn't. I was always so busy running around dancing and carrying on with trying to keep up with everything that I never thought about that.
Even though you were given all the accolades and the fan magazines and everything else, that's amazing.
Well, yes, but you know, I've never just dwelled on those kind of things. I never have. I just loved to go and work and loved to do it, and I never worried too much about what they were going to say about it.
What a healthy attitude. Maybe that's what being born in Texas does for you.
Texas is
a
good...
it really makes a difference, the kind of childhood and morality upbringing you have and the values you have. And that probably has sustained you all these years. And you too, Tony. I mean, you've been an icon, you've been a legend, and yet you seem to have kept a grip on yourself.
I'm never pleased. I like everybody. I admire every singer. I have it. My house, she'll tell you, I have everybody's records but my own. Let's see. I have one of mine, but the rest I have Sinatra's, Bing, Russ Colombo, Perry Como, Tony Bennett, all of them. If I've left out a couple, I'm sorry, but I have them all.
May I tell you a secret?
Sure.
You're missing the best. Because I have your records and they're better than anybody's.
That's very, very nice. Thank you.
Buy some.
All right.
No, it is wonderful and it's refreshing because I think, especially with some of our other stars, the ego has taken over to such a degree, but you two seem so balanced and so at ease with who you are.
Well, singers get along pretty good, more so than comics. Comics copy each other's jokes. And that spoils their act. They don't like it. But singers all sing the same songs. We've got composers who write those songs for us. What a blessing it is for us. We don't need a joke writer.
And I think with singers, their voices endure. You can sing for many, many years.
Yes, it so happens. Yes, it does.
And when we hear some of the great singers who are well into their 70s, their 80s, their 90s, and they still can sing very well.
Yes, they can. Yes, they can.
Are you still dancing? A
little bit, a little stretching, a little moving around. Mm-hmm.
Tony, you're an avid sports fan, and I understand there's an interesting golf story you have.
Oh yes, when I was at Fox, I used to go on my days off and go over to Hillcrest Country Club, right across the street from Fox Studio, and play golf every day. And then when they wanted me back, I'd come back. That was my big joy. There were instances in the golf course which were fun. We used to tease Jack Benny, and we'd play in a foursome. He said if he ever broke 40 on the first 9 holes, he'd buy champagne for everybody in the place. So he's doing very well that day. The wind was blowing right for him, and he's getting onto the greens. We come to the 9th hole, and all he's got to do is make a bogey 5, and then he's got to buy champagne for everybody. Well, he was so anxious to make it, knowing Jack, he was a wonderful guy. He choked on the thing, and he drove the ball into a great big sand trap, and he wound up taking 8 shots on the hole, and we teased the life out of him that how cheap could a man be? He takes an 8 on a hole instead of a 5. I always remember that. We kidded Jack about that all through his lifetime.
What was your handicap?
My handicap was, at that time, was about an 8 or a 9.
Are you still playing?
No, I haven't played for a while. I don't. I walk. I enjoy golf. I enjoy all the sports. Looking forward to the Olympic Games. They're wonderful.
Now, you had your own variety show.
Yes, I did.
That must have been an interesting experience.
Yes, it was always fun getting guest stars. And it was very nice. I had a lot of all the best.
Was it done live?
Done live, see, no repeat, no tapes. So you had to, even the Ed Sullivan shows that I did 10 of them. And those were always live. Incidentally, he was a very nice man to work with. Ed Sullivan was a real nice guy to work with. He wouldn't allow any fooling around. You'd have to do it the way we rehearsed it. And if you tried anything else, he'd take it out of the program. It's all live, see.
Now, you've both done Broadway and film.
Yes.
And television.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite medium? Do you prefer one over the other? Do you like working with a live audience as opposed to doing a film, or?
We worked together in Vegas, and in the 2 hotels. And we enjoyed that very much. Dancing right there, she had some dancers with her, and I had some singers with me. It was very, very nice, and Cyd and I sang a song together. We enjoyed that, meeting people that we never knew from somewhere that came up and said, we've seen you in Rhode Island, we've seen you in North Carolina, or wherever. Sign an autograph. It's an intimate thing. It's an intimate thing. It's great.
And having an audience is always kind of nice to have an audience of, when you're working, when you're playing. Yes.
Now, I know in a lot of the movies they dubbed your voice, but here you sang live.
Most of the singing was dubbed for me. Every now and then I think they would allow me to do this little phrase.
But when you did your show together,
oh yes, no,
sang.
then I'm on my own. Yes.
Why do you think they dubbed your voice?
Well, I wasn't a singer. And at MGM, you had to be very good at what you did.
Another great favorite film is Silk Stockings.
Yes, that's a lovely film. That's Ruben Mamoulian was the director of that. Yes. And it was Cole Porter. And I got to know him. He came and sat on the set. And Arthur Freed, of course, had brought him out because he had decided to do this property of his. So that was a good time in my life. It was a lovely film to do.
Have either of you seen the new film about Cole Porter with Kevin Kline and Ashley Judd? How does the music hold up? What did you think of it? Is it as good as the one with Cary Grant?
We saw it at the Academy.
Is it as good as the one with Cary Grant? Remember, wasn't it Cary Grant?
Different style. Good music, good dancing,
music, yeah.
And a very interesting story. Very interesting story.
Did you
Anything
enjoy
Cole Porter is interesting.
Cyd, you acted in the straight drama Party Girl, directed by Nick Ray. What was that transition like for you in leaving the genre that you were so comfortable in musicals?
Well, yes, I loved to do it. I was always happy when they were giving me an acting role, and that was an acting role. I did very little dancing in that. And it became a very popular film, especially in France, of all places.
Why would I ever need you?
And speaking of France, you both traveled quite a bit in Europe, didn't you?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And with your show?
Yes.
Yeah, we did our show in London. I worked there single a few times, and then Cyd and I were over there. Then Cyd did a play over there We both worked in Australia. She was in a show in Australia, and I was working in a big club down there.
And how were the audiences there?
They were wonderful. They were wonderful. They like American entertainment.
Would you discuss co-authoring The Two of Us?
That was a book that was done in a style where I talked and then she talked, similar to this this thing here today. It wasn't two minds with a single thought. It was two minds with two different thoughts. So that was done as told to. That was not our book, so to speak. So it never quite came off. I've read it, I'm not pleased with it, nor was Cyd.
Now you tell me. I ordered it from Amazon.
I could have brought you a copy.
No, I wanted to read it, so I decided I would. For both of you, you have both won Lifetime Achievement Awards. And Tony, you have, as we said before we even started filming, 4 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
And what did it mean to you to receive the Ella in 1992?
Well, it was an accomplishment, and I was very surprised. I was very surprised each time. The man that put him in there, he's still at it. Nice man down in Hollywood. And all I could say is, thanks so much. And nobody ever believes that they deserve it, because there's great competitors who never get their names in those places there. There ought to be a place for those who never made it, another street that should have. Who decides? We don't. It just happens. And you can't say, no, I don't want it. It's nice to have.
It certainly is. And Cyd, you received the first Nijinsky Award in 2000.
That was in the south of France.
That was in Monte Carlo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you had to think about what your legacy as a dancer in the movie industry was, what do you think was or is the Cyd Charisse movie dance legacy?
Oh my goodness, I don't really know, to tell you the truth.
The fact that you were ballet trained and were able to do so much in every style, or I mean, you were and you are unique. You know, Leslie Caron was a ballerina, and she could only do that. Some people are modern dancers, some people are tap dancers, but you ran the spectrum. I mean,
yes, I did. I was able to change my style into whoever I happened to be working with. And that, again, came from the training that I had had when I was very young.
One of the characters in Ziegfeld says to his fellow actor, "You're a couple of troopers." Remember the line? Would you then say, as 2 troopers, you have lived a full life in the arts, performing around the world and having a loving relationship? Would you consider that would be one of the ways of describing you?
I think we were just where we were from the beginning, trying our best to make people happy with us, and we're loving people and caring for everybody, regardless of their strength or their abilities, but as people. We mix our social life, not just entertainers, business people, everybody. People are people. Nice people are nice people. And that's what we're happy about. We have so many wonderful friends in all walks.
But you've worked hard. I mean, the 2 of you have paid your dues. You know, it didn't come easily. You put in a lot of hard work.
Yes, of course. Of
Yes,
course we worked hard.
That is all true. But on the other hand, it's very important to enjoy what you're doing.
For either one of you now, or for both of you, what has happened to elegance and glamour in movies. I guess we can even say in life. Where did it go?
It's just
Well,
the world.
wars have a lot to do with it. Wars. The great successful years of the motion picture business has always been after the war period, or during the war period.
Well, also, motion pictures were, when television came along, made a very big difference to motion pictures, at that time, too.
But the stars of today are stars, just like they were then. Really, they are. And they have to be good. They're wonderful. We enjoy all these people that work today. They're just great, all of them.
We were talking off camera before a little bit about the great, wonderful musicals. And when you look at the revivals on Broadway now, you see that the most successful shows are the revivals, the Wonderful Towns, Chicago, all of those. Why do you think that the movie industry is so slow in understanding that people really would pay to see these and that they are an important part of the entertainment world?
I don't know how to
I would
understand
feel
it.
that it has to do with financials. Producers. There comes time now where people, the same producers, if they're fortunate to be around, will produce the same picture 30 years later. There have been a couple. They do it, you have different audiences. You've got people who are in their 20s who saw a picture, vis-a-vis what's that one, 80 days around, what is that?
80 Days Around the World?
Yeah, that's just
Around
been
the World in 80 Days.
Around the world,
yeah.
that's been done again. And I hear it's very successful. People never saw it before. So you might, in a long lifetime, see the same picture done 3 times.
With different titles.
With different titles, yes, indeed.
Like they were, like the songs.
Yeah. But it's so different. The world is so different right now. The music is different. Now, being a dancer, I look at music right down the line. And when you look at some of the music that is being played, which is called music, and it's really not great, it's amazing.
But don't you think it is true that Cole Porter and Jerome Kern and Stephen Sondheim, that their music still holds up today?
Of course, they were great musicians, and they're still people that are still doing all of their work with this wonderful music that we have. But today, I guess all of this young group are into this dancing and
There have
music.
been a lot of pop songs that made movies, too.
Yes.
You got Hank Mancini's song, Moon River,
Henry Mancini. He wrote
Days of
beautiful
Wine and
music.
Roses,
Yes.
Yeah.
all from pictures, big hits.
But when you travel around the United States and you see what people are doing even in regional theater, I mean, it's all the old Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Yes, of course.
It's the Stephen Sondheim.
That's right.
People are doing the musicals.
Well, our
and
composers are not writing that kind of music, which makes me sick all the time.
It's true. It's absolutely
Because
true.
dancers can go nowhere without the music.
And you can just hear a rap song once, and that's enough. And the words don't stay with you because they're all 4-letter words anyway.
Yes.
That's right.
And but people still go out on dates. People still fall in love. When you go researching music for a wedding, for instance, you go back to all the old songs because that's what you want to hear. So who isn't listening to us?
Well, it's those people that write that kind of music, and that is the answer. They write it, and they write it, I guess, because they make a lot of money for it.
Records came into
lot
the
of
fore, and people produced records, these rock concerts, things like that, and the records. That's what makes the young people to rebel against the standards, I believe. They want to have something they can call their own.
Well, every generation does.
Of course it's
yes.
so. That's so.
but it still doesn't, I mean, you know, it still doesn't take away from the beauty of the music that, you know, we're talking about.
Yes,
and
yes.
I think if you take a look at the, what do you call it when you redo a record, when you know, re-record something, you know, all of the, when you go into Tower or Virgin or any of these places,
Yes, yes.
you see all the old standards which have been reformatted and are now on CDs, you know, collections of Mel Torme or, you know, Tony Bennett or Tony Martin.
The charts are what go today. The kids read the charts and that's it.
Tony, they say that imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. So many singers have tried to imitate you, but none of them have really achieved that marvelous sound that is yours alone. Do you have a current favorite vocalist? Someone who is singing now in modern, you know?
Well, not really. No, I don't. As I said earlier, I like them all. Now, that is not eavesdropping on everybody's records. I play everybody's. Every singer I know has a style of his own, and I enjoy it. That's theirs. People imitate, that's something else. And they tell you that they're going to do their impression of. Well, everybody's done their impression of Sinatra, and Sammy Davis Jr. has done impressions of Dean Martin, and everybody's done impressions of everybody. A couple of guys have done impressions of me, where they elongate my arms when I express a song, something like that. But they sing their own way.
Do you watch the American Idol show?
Yes, I've seen that many times.
What is your feeling about that crop of singers coming up?
Well, listen, as I say, I don't know the minds of the masses. I don't know.
Do you find that the sounds that came from singers like you, like Perry Como, like Bing Crosby, which seem to flow effortlessly, are not on the horizon anymore, that these younger singers really are pushing and punching and straining a lot?
That's the style today.
It's the style.
Which means by the time they're 35, they're going to have nodes on their vocal cords.
Well, not only that, but there'll be somebody taking their place. They don't last long. Oh, some of them do. Some of them do. But the longevity of the people we've been mentioning, 50 years and 60 years of singing, very few, there's some people that sing Texas style that have lasted a long, long time. Country music people. But for the most part, the young people, they come along, make some noise, and in due time, they're not with it anymore. Not that they have failed in their throats, but new faces are there's the old expression, new faces are what the public wants. If you got enough faces to show them, they'll accept them.
Change. Cyd, we've talked a lot about singers. Anyone in the current crop of dancers that you feel is, you know, can light up the screen or light up a Broadway stage the way Fred or Jean?
Yes. Well, I think I was so impressed when I was doing a show in New York with the dancers that work, and the really New York dancers they're known as, because they are so good. They're so talented. I could say half a dozen of them that you could pull out and be absolutely great, just great. It's amazing. And those people, they call them the New York dancers, and they are very, very talented, and on the road, you know, on the right road, and working hard, and it's wonderful to see them and to get to know them.
I almost think it's harder now to be a dancer than almost anything else because it requires so much training and there's so much competition for so few roles.
Mm-hmm. That's
I mean, these dancers really have to work, boy.
Those dancers work harder, and you go to see these wonderful Broadway shows, and those dancers come out. And I don't know anybody that works any harder than dancers do work. They really do.
Now, there's one area we haven't touched on,
Good.
and that I think, again, sets you apart.
The what?
And that is the fact that you both give back to the community. You both are involved with people who are less fortunate, Society of Singers, charities. Can you talk a little bit about what makes you do that?
Well, it's background, family. We both came from humble families. And I guess we never had a big bankroll. We started from scratch. And I had to go out and do it on my own. Cyd too. And we have appreciation.
Thank you both so much for taking your time and sharing your talent and lives with us today. We cannot overestimate what your contribution to the entertainment industry has been, and we greatly appreciate your contribution to our legacy program.
Thank you. We're honored that you came here to ask these questions. You're a big fan, and we're a fan of yours by now.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.